What's up everyone, thank you for tuning in. So today I'm going to be doing a 1-year review of my 2012 Ram Power Wagon. Now if you guys want to see more details, I did do a more in-depth video on all the features of this truck. Just for you guys don't know, the 2012-2013 Ram Power Wagons in particular kind of received a weird hybrid kind of setup to, for example, 5.7 Hemi with the newer 66 RFE transmission, still kept rear leaf springs, and a 456 rear in the back. So just a couple weird stuff right then and there. So definitely not all the specs that you would see from like a 2014 on up models or 2011 down. If I'm wrong, please correct me down in the comments below. So to start this video off, I just want to say that I still love this truck. I don't regret trading in my mega cab for it. However, I do miss that mega cab, the mega cab feature of it. But no, I don't regret anything at all. This truck has outperformed and everything I needed it to do. That being said, let's start this off on the whole journey and major headaches this truck gave me before my second truck payment. So basically I've had to change radiator, water pump, did a whole tune-up, so plugs, coils, I don't know if I mentioned radiator already, but radiator, electric fan, the transfer case shifter bushing, and oh yeah, the heads and head gasket. So let's start this off. First month, a little over a month, drove the truck. I believe it still had everything in it, which is pretty much stock. 203 degree thermostat, you know, so on and so forth. I have no idea what kind of oil it had. Drove it for a month and a half, zero issues. Mind you, it was summertime, so it was about 105 degrees plus at that time. My girlfriend at the time, we went to do a lake trip. On the way back, I noticed the truck started seeing temps around 220 and was kind of tripping out about it, but not really, because I know these trucks, and even in the manual it says these things normally tend to run hot. Pretty much the manual states 230 degrees on up is when you should start worrying, and guess what, it hit over 230 degrees. So threw the heater on blast, found a safe place to, you know, just pull over. Idled it for a little while, so you could see the temps would go back down. It did not, so I turned the truck off. Oh, by the way, I did hear the clutch fan kick in, so the clutch fan was working. Walked around front and seen coolant just spill out over the front. Popped the hood and seen coolant coming out of the overflow, seeing all over the radiator. So I couldn't really source exactly where the coolant was coming from except for the overflow. So waited for it to cool down. Utilized my Ram boxes to put emergency coolant and distilled water in. Utilized that, topped it off, made it home thankfully. Couldn't really diagnose exactly where it was coming from, again, except for the overflow. So I couldn't really visually check or even physically feel if there was some sort of cracks in the radiator. So I took the radiator out and identified there was cracks on the plastic end tanks, which is, I guess, is a common thing on this. And honestly, all radiators that come with plastic end tanks, that's like the first thing I want to do away with, unless it's like a low mile vehicle. What's low mile vehicle for me? Anything under 100,000 miles. That's me. Now if we're talking like old vehicles from like the 90s or whatever, or even maybe early 2000s, maybe not so much. Maybe I'll still upgrade and change out those radiators. I mean, even upgrading to just a single core aluminum radiator still isn't, you know, breaking the bank at that point. So moving forward, saw the radiator was compromised, took out the radiator, now when I bought this radiator, it's all aluminum. It did say it held more coolant in it, but it wasn't listed as a dual core. It looks like a dual core, but it wasn't listed as one. Now I know I could probably visually look inside of it to see the, you know, the two rows and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure it is. And got it for a good price. I'll leave the link down in the description below if it's even still available off eBay where I got it from. And at the same time, I also upgraded to the electric fan. Now I'll leave a part number down to the dormant electric fan that I use. And the way I did the fan, because everybody goes, oh, you need to get a tuner to whatever to reset when the fan turns on. Yeah, basically it won't turn on unless it hits that factory, whatever. I think it turns on 210, 215 degrees. I could be wrong on that, but I basically just wired it to a switch. Now, is that for everybody? No, but unlike me, to where I have multiple cars with multiple switches that run coolant fans, specifically the 87 hatchback Accord and the DA Integra. It's nothing that I usually ever forget. I have a physical light on the switch that I can see when it's on, and I can walk outside my vehicle and hear it on. It's that loud. So hasn't been a problem. Eventually I do want to wire in a thermostatic fan switch, which isn't too hard to install. Just at the time when I was doing all this, I didn't really have the funds to get that and acquire it. And it would be my first time installing one of those things. I have to get, there's a lot to, it's not hard, there's just a little bit more to it than just your average, wire job. So I'll probably make a separate video for that here in the future if you guys are interested. So anyway, electric fan, wire to a flip switch, and dual core aluminum radiator. Didn't fix my problems. After weeks of driving it to and from work, I figured either the head gaskets are compromised or this truck had a lot of air in the system. So I made a decision, called it, pretty much based on the fact when it started getting colder out, when I started turning the truck on in mornings and cold, it would shoot a lot of white smoke. And then I started noticing the smell of the white smoke, and as time went on, it just got worse, and I figured, okay, yep, coolant is mixing in, the heads are leaking. So, blown head gaskets. So, I ordered a pair of rebuilt heads with an angle valve job, and I believe even a minor port job on it too, for about $750, not including shipping and taxes, from a machine shop, which I'll leave down in the description below as well, because I can't remember the name at this moment. Located in West Virginia, and I got both these heads in about a week, which would have been way faster and way more efficient than if I were to take the warped heads to a machine shop here, have them check it out, have them do the work, straighten it out and everything like that. I would have been looking at least a 1 to 2 month wait time. I wasn't down to do that. I like buying refurbished heads, just sending cores. It's just so much easier, in my opinion. So that was a big job for me because I've never worked on a V8. Never worked on a Hemi, and the only head gasket job I ever done at the time was the one that you guys have probably seen if you've been following the channel, on the single cam 88 Accord on the 820. The best advice that I got my friends was look at it like 2 4-cylinders, which I did, and it made things a whole lot easier for me to visually look at it. And honestly, doing the heads on this truck was actually easier in some aspects than doing it on a Honda motor, believe it or not. Quite easier. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's all right there. I was actually able to get inside the engine bay and get to a lot of stuff that normally would be super hard to get to in a car. So yeah, it was cool. It was a headache, but it was a huge learning experience, which I really enjoyed. First time working on a V8, first time working on a push rod, first time going out stepping outside my bounds, if that makes any sense. So did that. Truck started on for like 2 or 3 cranks. Still smoked a little bit. I figured maybe there's still some coolant in the system. I just let it burn it off, which it did. Drove it to work the next day, 0 problems. Woke up the next morning to go to work, and there's a pile of coolant, way worse than I've ever seen. I mean, there actually really wasn't any leak this truck had, but there's a huge pile of coolant underneath the passenger side. And I was like, did I not torque the heads down tight enough, or like what the heck did I do? Was there a hose? Did I nick the heater hose? Like, what's going on? So it took me about a week to finally figure out what it was, and normally most people will keep this kind of stuff to themselves, but I'm a pretty transparent person when it comes to this stuff. I gain nothing from hiding anything from you guys. I use zip ties to move the wiring harness out of the way, specifically on the passenger side. Doing so, I didn't realize that the excess zip tie, after you go through the loop, that I did not cut, which I normally do cut, but I didn't because I was lazy, somehow found its way between the head and the block and got sandwiched in between all that, and I drove for like almost a week with a zip tie sandwiched in between the head and the block, and I'm still amazed by it to this day. Anyway, had to buy a whole new head gasket, get a whole new studs, check the head. Thankfully it did not warp from that or when I pulled it out. So redid the passenger side, and to this day, 2,500 miles later, it works like a charm, no problems at all. From owning this truck, I put about roughly 4,000 miles. Now, so you guys be like, whoa, 4,000 miles in a year? That's not that much. I alternate between daily driving the truck and my black Civic, the EJ6. So that's why there's the kind of small amount of miles used on the truck. And if I know I'm going to be going to a place, like example, if I was going to go through a drive-thru to get food or whatever, one of the key things that I've seen a lot of people suggest not to do with Hemis in general is have them idle long at all. So how much evidence there is between high idle times at operating temp that equals to a possibility of acquiring the Hemi tip, which is lifter failure into where the cams pretty much get eaten. There's a pretty high chance of the cause for that. I have future plans on remedying that here in the future, but getting back on track, 2,500 miles, I put about 4,000 miles on the truck, 2,500 since the head gasket change, and pretty much tune-up, so spark plugs, coil packs, water pump, and the only problem I ran into between the head gasket change and now is the starter going out. That's pretty much it. So that's about it. Again, no regrets getting this truck, no regrets trading in the mega cab for it to a certain degree, but I do not recommend this truck as a first truck, especially for anybody looking into or has any sort of like I guess you could say amateur level gear knowledge. It's not rocket science to fix a couple of things. There's just a lot of things to do on this, and it's definitely not a cheaper route as well in comparison to a lot of other stuff on the market. Nothing that really compares to this trim, but yeah, there's a lot more things in this truck that can go wrong and fail, and it would just be like a lot more money, time, and expense to be able to source it, have the finances to get it, and then acquiring the knowledge to do it and do it right. So there's my 2 cents on it. I'll still do annual updates if you guys want me to continue to do so. I do have a couple videos that I've already done for this truck. I just gotta edit them all together and add a couple things here and there. One of them is going to be a 160-degree thermostat and Mishimoto radiator cap test in comparison to the OEM radiator cap, and a 180-degree aftermarket Duralast thermostat, just to see how this truck responds and reacts to it. And I also installed a oil catch can that is not the Mishimoto one, very similar, but without the Mishimoto price. So I'll show you an install on that and everything I got on that here coming up pretty soon. Okay, so before we end this, I'm going to go over some of the stuff that I've used to tune up the truck after a while. A lot of this stuff I researched on multiple forums, Facebook pages, reputable YouTube channels from guys that know Mopar and specifically 13 Hemis way more than I do. So far they've all worked out great. So for spark plugs, I just used Mopar nickel spark plugs. Leave a link down in the description because I don't know the name. I don't know the serial number of them at this moment in time. I will also leave a link down with the spark plug socket that makes life way easier to change spark plugs on the Hemis. For coil packs, I just use Duralast coil packs. I was looking at MSDs, but from what I've read, they're basically just coil packs painted red with MSD written on them. I'm not planning on racing this truck, and a lot of people that I've read have seen no dramatic change in changing with MSD coil pack. So there's that. How true that is, I don't know. Water pump, Duralast, no problem. Head gaskets, multi-layer Velcro, no problem. The head studs, Velcro, no problem. Exhaust gaskets, Velcro, no problems. Starter, Duralast, no problems. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. The oil I used, I have no idea what it used when I bought it off the lot. It had the original Mopar filter for it. I don't know what part number. The second time, or the first time I changed the oil on it after the head gasket changed, I used the high mileage Pennzoil 5W30 synthetic with a Wix oil filter. The recent oil change I just did as of making this video, the second oil change I've done on this truck, I've used the Ultra Platinum Pennzoil 5W30 synthetic oil with the Viper SRT Mopar oil filter. There's some great details and stuff like on that on Bob is the Oil Guy, I think is the name of that forum. Great article and stuff on that oil filter in regards to Hemis. So have no problems on that. I'll leave all the links in the description of that. Also, I will also leave a link down in the description to the needle fitting, the Zerk fitting, I believe it's called, Zerk, for when you need to grease up your driveline, which is highly recommended to do so every oil change. I've done it twice already. It's not hard. Just get a grease gun, whatever grease in your flavor. I've gone through 3 different needle fittings to find one that actually fits. I finally found one. I will leave it down in the link in the description below You guys will thank me for it, I hope. So if you guys have any questions, please ask me down in the comments below. I'm still on my journey of learning Mopar stuff and 3rd gen Hemi stuff, so bear with me on that. And again, thank you for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.